This is the Tobago House of Assembly Sports Executive Council media briefing for week ending November 12, 2011. This week heralds the return of Education Secretary Whitney Alfred, who fell ill while on official THE business in Guadeloupe. Back on the job, the Secretary spoke of developments from the Division of Education.
During this year, fiscal 2011 to 2012, one of my key objectives as Secretary of Education, Youth Affairs and Sports is to complete as far as possible a number of projects which have been languishing out there for a long time. One of those projects is the Mariah Recreation Ground. The Mariah Recreation Ground. This recreation ground must be completed and become operational in 2012. Another one is the Mason Hall Pavilion. My aim, my objective is that this pavilion must be completed and commissioned and put in use by 2012. There are other important projects which will be completed, note the choice of words, which will be completed, shall be completed in 2012. Already the Central Tenders Board has given award for the lighting of a number of playing fields. It's about 10 or 11. Sometime later during the course of this week or next week, I'm going to either call a press briefing at the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport, where I'm going to provide you with a list of these playing fields and the contractors who have been contracted to do the lighting of these playing fields. But for the time being, what I can advise you is that tenders have been awarded for the lighting of these fields. What the contractors are doing now, they're in the process of executing the contract, because when the contract is awarded, then the legal documents have to be prepared and the contractors execute these contracts. The Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sport is in the process of finalizing plans with the WISE, the Young Men Christian Association, for the construction of a swimming pool at Tobago East. In fact, it would be at Kendall. We are almost there in completing the necessary documents so that, again, hopefully, this will be one of the projects which will see completion in 2012. Another project which we have in the pipeline is the maintenance of the fields which we have already lighted. For example, at Plymouth, Milford, Charlottesville, we will ensure that these fields are maintained. And another improvement which we have in the drawing board will be the improvement of some of the hard courts. There are some hard courts out there which need improvement. Only yesterday and Monday, I was informing myself of the budgetary allocation of the various projects in the development program of the Division of Education, Youth Affairs and Sports. I am looking at the allocation to analyze, to indicate what it is we had asked for, what it is has been allocated, and to what extent we will be able to implement as far as possible the projects which we identify as priority projects. So perhaps in a week or two, I will be in a better position to advise you, members of the media, where we are going, what the various allocations are, and the way forward in terms of the implementation of these projects.
Mr. Alfred led way to Infrastructure Secretary Hilton Sandy, who noted that work has begun on the road in Signal Hill leading to the new Scarborough Hospital.
Yesterday, work commenced with that in the road where we're going to put in a roundabout at the junction of the hospital between the Signal Hill and the road going to the Army camp. So you'll have a roundabout go at that area, and we're going to then be able to do the alignment of the road from the roundabout, from the T-junction straight up to Signal Hill. What is going to happen, you'll find that the traffic on the Signal Hill Road will be diverted using the road at the Scarborough Secondary, at the Signal Hill School Road down there to get into like Patience Hill and other areas. And we'll use the Orange Hill Road. So we're going to have some diversion of traffic, not using that Signal Hill Road for a while. Because we don't want to be having a stop and go in the area. The technology we use there would be transfer of technology from company to our local engineers. We in the Division of Infrastructure has never had the opportunity of putting in a roundabout. And what we would have decided to do is not to give the work on contract. We will use the designer to work along with members of staff of the Division of Infrastructure to put in that roundabout. So the technology from that expert engineer who would have designed the engineer will be passed on to our engineers and our local other clerk of works to gain that experience of handling roundabouts. The division also is going to be putting in 5 new bridges along the Milford Road, starting from Lambo River. So those 5 bridges we're going to commence at Lambo River. Also, the set system will be used for those bridges because it calls for transfer again of technology, how you're putting bridges that you use with the expanded purlins over the bridge. This was never done before by our engineers. And we have young engineers which we want to have the technology passed on to them. So the design engineer and consultant would work along with the staff of the DIPU to put in those 5 bridges along the Milford Road. That we hope when we put in those 5 bridges and we reopen the Milford Road from Lambo, going back to the Claude Noel Highway, would help to ease the traffic getting out of Scarborough. So instead of going onto the highway, you will use the Scarborough, the Milford bypass at the stadium and the playing field along there, and you go straight and end up onto the highway. You can get into Lambo, you could get back to the highway using the branch of Stinscure Road, and then you can go straight bypassing the Chief Secretary House down there and get back onto the highway. So you'll have the Lambo village sort of come alive again by having any traffic going through Lambo. So that is for the 5 bridges. And we shift to Windward Tobago, where we're going to continue the widening of the roads where possible in Windward Tobago. In Goodwood, we intend to do some widening. We have some corners in Goodwood. We want to take out those hairpins and straighten them a bit so you can have an easier flow of traffic in the Goodwood area. In Lambo, Speyside, there's a very sharp turn at the Lambo Hill. Again, we want to get in there and bust through the mountains and open the traffic to give it a straight up the road in Speyside. Work will commence in the next 3 weeks after we have completed the survey. So all these works I'm giving you, work will commence almost immediately to sort of get the infrastructure going in Tobago. In Scarborough, we will put in 2 boardwalks in Scarborough. We'll call it 3. One will be by the port area, which was designed prior. That will go in. Then we have another boardwalk. We'll go over the bridge, over the drain by KFC. As by the bank, FCB Bank, that open drain behind the bank. So you will step up on the boardwalk and you'll walk on that boardwalk and you'll end up to the financial complex. So if you look at it, picture it in your mind, you get into the car park by FCB, you step up on the boardwalk over the drain, and you end up by the financial complex. You walk along, going along the market, bypassing the market, and then you're onto the financial complex. So that, the design is almost through, So as we get those designs, we'll commence the work on that boardwalk. Also, we want to put in another boardwalk linking the Port Authority onto the Esplanade. And there's where you had the water tanks, the oil tankers, the oil tanks for the MP had some oil tanks there. Across that river, we will link it with a boardwalk. So when the tourists get off the ship and they come on the port, they can walk straight over into the Esplanade. So that entire area will be beautified and there's a change in the entire area. I've been speaking to the Secretary of Tourism, who also is thinking of putting in that location the duty-free shop that he had discussed sometime prior. So we're working together to beautify that area. So that work is coming soon. As I said, the designs are almost through. So as we receive the designs, we will move on with the work in that area. The garden side car park, we're going to upgrade that car park, marking the car park properly, putting up all these signs. We'll put some lights in the car park, so if you park your car in the night, you see what's happening in the car park there. And also, we're going to put a walk between the Young Cow grocery and the gift shop. Between there, we'll put a walk that you can walk through that area straight onto the car park.
As part of the beautification process, the pavements in Scarborough will also be power washed. Having recently met with the board of the National Petroleum Company, Chief Secretary Orville London updated the media on the discussions.
I think one of the more important issues that was discussed is the financing and construction of the new gas station at Roxborough. As you might be aware, under the previous administration, a commitment was made, the contract was signed, and in fact the tender was awarded. But since the change in administration, this was shelved. But we have got a commitment from the chairman and the acting CEO that they are going to guarantee to the Tobago House of Assembly that this will be revisited and that the gas station will be constructed and financed by the National Petroleum, and we, of course, will be monitoring that situation. NP has also committed to the upgrade of all the other gas stations in Tobago. And we had a very interesting discussion in relationship to the introduction of CNG plants in Tobago. And we made the point that Tobago, for a number of reasons, is ideal for the introduction of CNG. And I think that it is one area where we can have, the level of collaboration that can make this a reality in the shortest possible time. We also heartened that the company has agreed to review the Castara site for the establishment of a pump station. As you know, we've had a very long and sometimes frustrating process where for the establishment of a pump station at Castara, primarily for the benefit of the fisher folk, but of course can still assist the traveling population. And this is something that they have committed to looking at, and I'm hoping that we're going to get some positive results. And they also will be discussing with us the possibility of having some pump stations at various places throughout Tobago to assist the fishing population. We are looking at the Scarborough site. We're looking at the situation at Swallows in order to ensure that even if you don't have a full-fledged marina, which is something that we will be looking at down the road, even though you don't have a full-fledged marina, you make fuel available to the fishing population and even to persons involved in game fishing and so on. All of those are issues that we discuss. I was encouraged by the approach and the response of the chairman and the CEO and the Tobago director, and I'm hoping that we're able to get some degree of continued collaboration, but more importantly, some closure to some of these issues, especially the question of the new gas station at Roxborough and the upgrade of the gas stations and the pump station at Castara.
The media was also brought up to speed on the recent distribution of leases to Adelphi Estate residents.
Very interesting discussion. The Adelphi Estate is an estate where we took on a very ambitious role to really take an estate that had been established 3-4 decades ago and to try to regularize every household, every occupant on the estate. It's a very expensive process, a very complex process, but one to which we are committed. And we are beginning to see results. Of course, you know, you could never work fast enough to satisfy people who have been waiting for 30 and 40 years. But I just want to update the people of Adelphi and the people of Tobago. There are really 3 or 4 phases to the process. There's a surveying phase, then there is the phase where the Town and Country Planning Division is involved, and then there's a lease preparation and registration phase. At present, we would have surveyed in Adelphi South 89 plots. All 89 plots in Adelphi South have already been surveyed, and we are in the process of conducting surveys in Adelphi North. There are 87 plots there, and the expected completion date is the 28th of November. At present, there are 65 surveys that have already gone through Town and Country Planning and are now with the Legal Department for Lease Preparation and Registration. To date, we have distributed 24 final leases. I'm no lawyer, but just to explain, the leases come in 2 phases. The first stage is when they prepared and the individuals come in to sign. And the second phase is when we send it to be registered, because we have also taken the responsibility as the assembly, rather than giving somebody a lease and they have to go through the legal process. We actually give them, they come in and they sign the lease. It's still a legal document, and we could have given them at that point in time, but we said, listen, you've been waiting there for so long. Let us give you something that you can work with it. You can mortgage it, you can do whatever you want when that finally. So we've already distributed 24 of those. And the aim is that by the end of the first quarter of 2012, that all the leases should be distributed. Of course, there's one aspect of the process over which we do not have control, and that is the actual registration, which does not take place in the office of the Chief Secretary. But we're hoping, based on the cooperation that we've been getting, that we should be able to deliver by the first quarter, if not the second quarter of 2012. And I think this is one of the more heartening tasks in which I have been involved. You know, we distributed some leases earlier this week, and there was one gentleman who had been living on the land, I think he told me, for 42 years. And to be able to, you know, contribute in some way for somebody to finally get security of tenure after 42 years is particularly heartening. But I have one concern which I shared with those people earlier this week, and which I want to share because I think it's worth repetition. I really am hoping that the people of Adelphi do not take the opportunity to sell the land. They're getting 199-year leases. 199-year leases is like freehold, and therefore you could do almost anything you want with it. And one of the reasons why that land has remained in the families for so long is that they couldn't do anything about it. I'm really hoping that not only the present occupants, but their heirs understand the sacrifice that has been made, understand the investment of the taxpayers' money, it's the people's money that has been invested to assist them, and at least make a commitment that that land remains in their hands and the hands of their heirs for the foreseeable future.
With the lifting of the curfew, the Chief Secretary expressed his disappointment that the state of emergency remains.
I looked at the response of people at the lifting of the curfew, and yes, I saw the joy, but I became very concerned. You know, And it made me think about abuse. And there's a thing about abuse that is extremely challenging and sometimes difficult to comprehend. That if abuse is severe enough, less abuse, in fact, becomes something that you appreciate. And I want to say how very concerned I am that the psyche of us as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago might have been so affected that while our liberties to which we have become accustomed are still being seriously undermined, we are in fact expressing joy that we are less abused today than we were 2 days ago, but we're still being abused. You know, it's almost like somebody who has been beaten and battered and so on a daily basis. And the day that they're not beaten and battered and they get verbal abuse, regardless of how severe, they feel relieved because the abuse is less than what they got before. And I really want to the government to really consider what they're doing to the people of this country and of this island. You know, I was at Glen Road, where the young people in Glen Road wanted to have a march. And they applied to the police, the ACP. And after a week, when they didn't get a response, I called the ACP. He was in Trinidad. And he had to contact the DCP, the deputy. And the deputy had to contact the commissioner for permission for people to march in Glen Road. But you know what was, to me, what was the saddest part of that? It was the relief and almost joy on the part of the young people of Glen Road that they had got permission to walk around their own community. And I want us as the people of this country to understand what little things like that mean. When you have a situation where 100 young people are appreciative of the fact that they have been given permission to walk in their own backyard, in their own community. That's all they wanted to do, walk around the community. And I'm just asking myself, how long will that continue? And I really am a little concerned, and I'm just repeating a concern that has been raised in a number of circles. What is the real reason why we are still under a state of emergency? I am no expert on criminal control of criminal activities, but I would tend to believe that the curfew was more likely to control crime than the other aspects of the state of emergency. And I'm asking myself, if one had an opportunity to examine and therefore decide what one is going with and what one is not going with, would one have not looked at the various conditions of the state of emergency and, of course, suspend those that one believes are not relevant in the achievement of whatever objectives that one would have had? And those things concern me, and I think we've got to ask ourselves whether we've got all the answers, whether we have all the information, whether we are aware of all the objectives. So I am quite concerned. Of course, we all are aware of the challenges that we face in Tobago because of the perception and the situation coming out of Germany. That situation is not particularly favorable. I think it has had some impact. I know that it has been said in other circles that we have to prove that the two things are related, but it's the one variable that has changed, and therefore one cannot help but draw conclusions. So I'm really hoping that the Prime Minister and the decision makers at the central government level would seriously consider whether they're being fair to the public of this island and this country by maintaining a state of emergency when they have not yet told us what is the reason, and they have not yet indicated to us how they intend to treat with the impact that it is having on the psyche of the people of this island and this country.
Mr. London also expressed concern over the recent tour of Tobago facilities by the Transport Minister, who was accompanied by the Minister for Tobago Development and the minority leader.
I cannot tell the minister what to do or what not to do. But I want to suggest to him that it might be a good idea if he speaks to his colleagues and gets some advice as to how you treat with the issues of the relationship between ministries and the Tobago House of Assembly. Because one of the things that we must not be tempted into doing is politicizing governance to the point where it becomes ridiculous. We have a situation where the minister is in charge of transport. There are secretaries in the Tobago House of Assembly whose portfolios are linked to some of the areas of responsibility of the minister. So when I got the information, I spoke to the Secretary of Tourism in England and asked him if he got any information, indicated to me no. I spoke to the Secretary of Public Utilities, responsible for public utilities. He indicated to me that he got a call at about 3:30, not from the ministry, but from somebody who told him that this thing was going on. So we actually have a situation where in areas where from some aspects the responsibilities are shared, we have a situation where the minister comes to Tobago and goes about his business and no effort is made to communicate. But I think what makes the situation, very sad is that the secretary indicated that on assuming his portfolio, he called the minister, indicated to the minister, I am the new secretary and I would like to meet with you to discuss those areas of mutual concern. The minister, according to the secretary, advised that he will get in contact with him. And he comes to Tobago and no effort is made to communicate. But I want to suggest that you send a very unfortunate signal that in a situation where you do not communicate with the chief secretary, even to pay a courtesy call to say, well, this is your first visit, you do not communicate with the various secretaries, but you find time to communicate with the minority leader of the Tobago House of Assembly and take him along as an official party in your delegation to deal with business over which the Tobago House of Assembly has jurisdiction, some aspects of which the Tobago House of Assembly has jurisdiction. And I'm saying when we do things like this, it makes the relationship very troubling. And therefore, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's a new minister. Possibly he was not well advised or he did not advise himself as well as he could. But I'm suggesting that there's still an opportunity for the situation to be salvaged. Because he has work to do, we have work to do. And there's work that we also have to do together. And I don't think that it sends very positive signals if the process signals, a certain degree of almost insult to the people of Tobago and to the Tobago House of Assembly. And I'm really making a public appeal to the minister to try to see what can be done to remedy the situation and to ensure that we have a process that would lead to the kind of relationship, the kind of mutually respectful relationship that could redound to the benefit of Tobago and, of course, to Trinidad and Tobago.
You have been watching the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for week ending November 12, 2011. For the Department of Information, I am Sophie Guillaume.